Hi everyone, it is the weekly wrap-up and wow, what a week. What a week. I have little Jax in here behind me and he's in a crate right now. I will explain to you why I'm in the hospital with little Jax, but first let's get to the weekly wrap-up of so much stuff we have gone on. So Elise and I were gone last week. We went to the Fila Tag SSP conference, which is a conference mostly for zoo employees. They brought in some other nonprofits that have done some rewilding and conservation work for the Eurasian lynx, jaguar, and ocelot, which were awesome. But we were kind of learning about zoo surplus, what the breeding programs in the zoos are meant for, and then we were asked to join because they wanted to see if there was any common ground between sanctuaries and zoos, especially for retiring animals. And as you guys all know, we definitely put rescue first. Rescue from the captive wildlife crisis is the #1 thing we do, but we have helped some SSP cats like Kitu, Lavani, the cheetahs, and Aaron, the cheetah. You might not know that we also had a clouded leopard here that had was an SSP cat and somehow disappeared through the system and reappeared needing sanctuary. And then we have worked with the former SSP for the cougar, also known as Puma, for orphaned wildlife. So, you know, and we're currently talking with the Bobcat SSP coordinator who says both cougars and bobcats, there are space in accredited zoos since they do not need to breed those populations for anything, that they're opening those spaces up for non-releasable wildlife. They do that with grizzly bears a lot too. So those are the areas that I can see are crossover and win-wins. Obviously there's a lot of difference in opinion of breeding animals in captivity and things like that, but as you know, if there's places we can come together to better the lives of animals, I'm all for that. So we were gone for a long time for that, and then Judson and Olivia went on this Bobcat rescue. And I want to go into depths about the Bobcat rescue because there is some confusion and there's some things that changed in the process of the rescue that I have never experienced in my 25 years, but I'll be able to explain some of those things and then also give you an update on little Jax behind me right now. But on top of that, we were dealing with 95-degree heat with a heat index over 100. It was oppressive here. Even hosing down cats was really hard to cool them because evaporation couldn't happen. On top of that, USDA surprise inspection came in on the hottest part of the day, and kudos always to the caretakers, interns, facilities who ensure that this place exceeds USDA standards on a daily basis. Obviously, we want to always exceed. We don't want to meet those standards, and we did just that, so that's awesome. I have been so intertwined with Catio Town as well. Today I was just working on ordering 2 pavilion for the Cat's Meow portion of Catio Town. We've been sitting in each room talking about the ventilation and the fans, even the TVs we moved because the cats could scratch their 40-inch TVs. So we're doing so many things on a detail basis to get Catio Town done. But stay tuned for an update because it's impressive what's gotten done so far and what will continue to get done. Most of the cats have been doing well. There's been a little kind of runny diarrhea and things. That does not surprise me in the heat, but you know, our staff put in those observations quickly as they happen. Also with the storms, Josie has been getting extra attention and getting her classical music because you know Josie, the office cat, is very afraid of storms. We're expecting severe weather tonight as well. So they have been locking cats in today into their rooms. Simba, the new bobcat that we took in, which I'll talk a little bit more about, is staying in his room today. We were hoping to give him outdoor access, but with severe weather, we don't want to do that. And I'll explain why, not only for severe weather, but some of the information we got from caretakers that formerly cared for him that helped us make that decision. And then hopefully tomorrow is a little breather room, but it has been nonstop. So let me share with you a little bit of the Bobcat situation. So first of all, this is little Jax behind me. You can see how small he actually is. I know in some of the videos it was hard to see because he wasn't with people. I'd say he's about 10 pounds. Interesting thing yesterday, we've been watching him really closely. And Dr. Campbell and I went and looked at his eye. It looks like one is scarring and one is a cataract. We know he can really not see in front of him. He can see motion really well, so he goes after everything with a gusto that has motion, and that means people and their legs. So when we're in there doing kind of vet examination or monitoring him, we're definitely careful, because if he's hungry, hi honey, if he's hungry in the least bit, he won't want to come with all teeth and claws. He's definitely got Bobcat in him. Another thing that's really cool is, I haven't seen this except in an older Bobcat and an older big cat, is that he has double sets of teeth right now. He's got 2 canines, 2 incisors, 2 everything. His big boy teeth are coming in, but his small baby teeth have not loosened and come out. So he's definitely got extra chompers in there. And we see that quite a bit, but usually we see it, you know, at the 6th or 7th month age, or a little older and bigger cats, of course, but he's doing it at a very young age. So I received, how this all started is our wonderful friends at Wildcat of Southern California, who does great rehab work, and their goal is to always get the animals back to the wild. We've worked with them, I can't even count how many years ago. I think maybe Benson might have been the first Bobcat that came. Maybe it was Claude. No, it could have been Claude, but it was years ago. And then most recently, like Glenn and Sarge have come from there, and a few other animals that she's reached out to us on. And usually, and you know, we work with an Arizona rehabber, Southwest Wildlife, that does the same. So if animals are deemed unreleasable, and they are approved by U.S. Fish and Wildlife to spend life in captivity, it's not something we want to see, but we know younger animals can adjust. And so, and a lot of times she'll get animals in, or they'll capture animals at large, and when they assess them, they realize they either had been taken in as a young baby into somebody's home and imprinted, or they weren't wild born at all. They were captive born and somehow loose and got out. And so those will have to go into sanctuary settings as well. So when she received this little boy Jax, Bobcat kitten, at her facility, he was quickly assessed. And one is, he was very tactile to people. He runs up to people, he loves scratches. That is not what you see in a wild-born Bobcat that is been mother raised. For example, when Henry the Bobcat came to us, he was even smaller than this. He was like this, and he's still hissy, spitty. Trying to hold him for a vaccine was impossible without getting scratched. And so you can see he's been around people. And then on top of that, that vision issues, again, we don't know what's caused it yet. We don't know if it was, some of it could be genetic, some of it could be injury. Obviously, if it's scarring, it seems like there might have been an ulcer on the eye that didn't heal appropriately. And so there's a lot of things that are unknown, but we do know, and what Anna did know, is that he could not survive in the wild. So she reached out to us. We are to the brim full. Our sanctuary is extremely full. We're full with big cats, we're full with small cats, we're full with medium cats. But based on our relationship with Anna, with knowing we have the on-site vet clinic, with working with special needs animals like this, and of course, a little bit in my heart, those photos reminded me of Baby Jenga, that we decided we would accept him and find placement for him here. We would build, if we have to build for him, and things like that. So we knew it would be a hardship, but you know, based on our capacity, but we knew we could give him the best care, and that we would be committed to getting him into a big habitat. And so our biggest thing was, how are we going to get him here? Anna at the rehabber said she would drive him here. Well, guess what? Rehab is busy. And when you're a small rehabber, life gets in the way. We were talking about, well, we were going to fly 2 staff down there and drive back. And then they could stop in California at one of our employees' house because he's a baby. And then he could get out in the bathroom or somewhere supervised and very safe to get his energy out before the rest of the trip. So that was our plan. We had a donor that was giving us airline miles to do that. So that was the original plan, and Baby Jax was going to join our family. During that time, I received numerous emails from different sources. Some from the AZA SSP Bobcat program, some from Big Cat Sanctuary Alliance, other sanctuaries, and even a zoo in California themselves. Charles Paddock Zoo reached out. They had recently taken in a bobcat that was a former pet and was seized by authorities. And they wanted to help this bobcat that was seized, and they brought him into the zoo, but they didn't have a permanent place for the bobcat. And they named him, or he came named Rufus. I just found out his name today, because without knowing this, we didn't know. So the email that came to me from several sources was, we have a bobcat at a zoo that was just seized by authorities, is a former pet. He is really social, he's really not social on display. They don't have a great habitat for him, and they really wanted a better life to place him. And so I reached out to sanctuaries, I reached out to the SSP, and she said, yeah, based on his age and being declawed, he's probably not a good fit for the zoo world, but keep us in mind if there's another animal that would, be good in a zoo environment. Every BCSA sanctuary said that wanted to help. Small cat space is just, there isn't space available. During this time, I also got a call on a serval and reached out to other sanctuaries, and one of our wonderful sanctuaries, Turpentine Creek, is going to be stepping up and taking in that serval, but they're having to make some adjustments too to be able to accommodate that serval. But I couldn't find anybody. I even reached out to local facilities and zoos in the area of California to see if they could help this bobcat that was just seized by authorities. So we were like, so I was at the getting ready for the conference, and one of a veterinarian that we worked with in California reached out and sent me the email and said, hey, there's a bobcat that was a former pet that would do better not on display, as a display animal. I think would be, really, really looking for a placement where he can not be open to the public and things like that. And so I just responded that, I know, I've heard about this bobcat from so many places. And so I said, here's the thing is, we don't have space too. We're taking in a bobcat from California, a little kitten. If at any way you can find transport halfway, we will accept this bobcat, because we've heard so much about him from so many sources. But we couldn't fly to California and then drive back, because I didn't want an adult bobcat to have to be in a crate that long when we had to stop and spend the night. We always drive straight through when we have a cat in our care. So luckily, the veterinarian said, give me a couple days, I'll see if we can get transport. And so then the veterinarian reached back out to me and said, yes, I have somebody that will drive and meet in Colorado. They'll actually allow Jax to come to their facility and then drive you both the bobcats. So I was like, wow, we somehow helped this bobcat at Charles Paddock Zoo. We took in Jax, we're gonna make it happen. To my confusion, personally, is then we got the transfer paperwork. And the transfer paperwork named another facility. And so I was like, oh, okay, they're just doing transport. Like, that is so nice of them to step up and do transport on these two. And then with more investigation, because you get paperwork, legal paperwork, transfer paperwork, I realized that Simba, who is coming to us, was actually another bobcat that wasn't doing well on display, and that the facility really wanted to see him thrive even more than that they were providing, and they were doing as much as they could at their facility and doing a great job, and he had operant conditioning. But Simba is not the same bobcat that was at the Charles Paddock Zoo, named, now I know, named Rufus. At this time we had no names. The backstories were the same. They were both at a facility in California. They both had been prior vets. Prior pets. Their stories were the same. I had no idea there was two bobcats that were being talked about. So all in my head, we were taking Rufus at the Charles Paddock Zoo and Jax. Then we found out halfway through this that it was actually Simba from a facility that really wanted to do the best by him. And I reached out to Charles Paddington and said, so we're not getting your Bobcat. She's like, no, I didn't hear back from you. Totally my error. Totally why everybody's confused, because I was confused. I thought these cases were the same case. And this just goes to show you how many cats are out there and had been out there in the private sector, that facilities, sanctuary zoos are trying to pick up the pieces and help. So what does that mean for everything going on? Is that the only different piece of information was that we believed the Bobcat was 10 years old. So Rufus, who was seized as a former pet, is 10 years old. Simba is 6 and was a former pet. And so we are thrilled. We've met Simba. We love Simba. He's been here, you know, not even two days. And the caretakers, he's melted their hearts. He's doing extremely well. I'm so proud of how confident he is. But in retrospect, we don't usually step in on cases that aren't emergency cases. But you know what? It was my error, and in the end, everybody wanted to give the best environment we can for any cat to thrive. And so I'm so thankful for all the teams involved, all the facilities involved, all the vets involved. It's just, we've never had things cross like this on my computer intake to be confused about what cat we're talking about. But that's because we have so many cats. And who would have thought that it would have happened in 2 cats, same background, same state. and so what's going on with Rufus right now? So Rufus, I'm still working with the director of the zoo. They still want him to go into a sanctuary environment, but that zoo has moved him. They're working with him. They're getting to know him. They're doing everything they can to make his adjustment as best. But talking to them today, they still would like Rufus. They think it's best for him to end up in a sanctuary environment. So I'm still looking for a home for him. Will TWS take him? We really want to make sure we don't step, especially going into winter months. So if there's another space for him somewhere, we'll find it, but we know he's safe. We know he's cared for right now. We know he's getting everything he can. It's just wanting to do better. And Simba's here, and we love him, and we're so grateful. The former caretakers have given us so much information on him. And so some of the information we got on Simba, once we knew all of this was happening and it was a change that I had made the error, is that Simba doesn't seem to want to use like dog loser dens. We've had tigers here for years that we've tried to acclimate to pools, like Winona, that does not go into a pool. And so that's why we chose to put him in indoor quarantine, because that's an enclosed room. And hopefully that he will get comfortable with the room, since you know all of the cats here at the sanctuary have a room. And so that could be his den, but a larger den. Since he's been transported in the crate during transport, we've left the crate in his room, and he's been using that quite often, but hasn't gone in the dog loo. And so today he was going to get outdoor access, but we have severe weather coming, and we don't want him out there and be too frightened to come in. And we know with the history that they gave us that he kind of is adverse to dens, that we didn't want that to be an issue. So we're gonna wait till that weather passes. We also know he liked to go up high in a cat condo, and we hope once he gets out into a true habitat, once he's acclimated and he gets his intake exam, that he will love trees and the cover of trees. But until then, we want to mirror what he had to give him the most comfort and consistency. And so we've put in some cat condos there. And so we really appreciate when an animal's rehomed from another facility, sanctuary, zoo, private owner, when they give us more information, because the whole goal for everybody is that the animal gets everything they deserve and everything they desire. And so he has had operant conditioning, and so we're going to continue that. He likes certain music. He loves scent enrichment, which all Bobcats do, but he must really love it. So he's already gotten that. He's coming up great for feeding. He's very motivated by food. And so I think husbandry is going to be pretty easy. And so we're hoping this is a place he loves to be. So that's kind of, you guys are living this real with me. Like I says, I don't think ever in my history have I mixed up 2 stories of animals, but I don't think I've ever gotten 2 animal stories that are completely that close. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why Jax now is here in the hospital, and then I can kind of update you on some other rescue things that are going on. So Jax, as we know, we don't know what's caused the vision issues. Nobody knows his history exactly. We did know when he came out, like when he went out of his crate and yesterday, he's been venturing around. We do know he can't see close up. We do know he has some peripheral vision. We also know that he can definitely not see like small feather toys very much. He can see like larger things moving. And so all of that is going to make us adapt his habitat outdoors. But it's not stopping him. He is adventurous and happy. But what we started seeing is some involuntary leg tremors, like in the front legs a little bit. And usually we see that with the clawed cats, older cats, not young cats. So we've mentioned it. The vet came out, Dr. Campbell came out. We looked at his eyes, and as much as we can do, we're gonna do an ophthalmology appointment. We might even do a CT scan to see anything in the brain. So that was the only thing strange we noticed. He loves to go into his den opposite of Simba. He's always in his den. He's good at finding shelter, and then we would call him out, and he'd sometimes come, sometimes not. So he can hear, but we don't know if he's selective hearing or if he just doesn't know those verbal cues yet. So, but after him waking up, can be a little slower. So on rounds this morning, Alyssa said he came out of his den, he stretched, and then he started having what looked like a seizure. And seizures can be really scary for us that are seeing it and watching them, especially in babies. But this seizure was a little different. He seemed definitely mentation. He was there. He seemed to understand what was going on, which is not typical of a seizure. It was about a minute long. So we brought him into the hospital for observation all night. He will have his nanny cam and the security cams on so we can watch him. He recovered within a minute fully, had his motor skills back and things like that. And so further research is going to have to be done. Seizures, sometimes they can be, a lot of stress has happened to this little guy in a short time, even though he's not showing it. So some of it can be triggered by auditory sounds, things like that. There is seizures that can be generalized seizures, that he could have a seizure issue, he could have trauma to the brain, or this could be something that is a one and done thing. That's what we're hoping based on some of the research that he's young, waking up and things like that we've seen. So he's gonna get a full workup, but we definitely aren't seeing any issues now. He came and ate two of his chicks and his chicken. He's actually been able to venture around the hospital supervised to stretch his legs, and he'll most likely go back tomorrow. But with the storms, the sounds, and the seizure this morning, we are just keeping a close eye on him. So somebody's asking if it's epilepsy. It could be a lot of things right now. I will tell you, I'm not overly concerned, of course, because he's got other issues going on. We want to be cautious, but he needs a full workup, and we just don't want to do that after coming off of a transport. You need to let them recover mentally and physically before they do that. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about little Jax had a seizure this morning, and just being full transparency here. And then I've reached out to the rehabber. I know she would have told me if she's seen anything like this. I know in transport for both parties, he did extremely well and was really, really calm. So again, we don't know the cause of it, but we are not extremely concerned at this point, but we are cautious. So that's a lot. That's a lot I just shared with you on the Bobcat and the backstories. But on top of all that, I've gotten rescue calls on some more small cats that are seized and unsocialized and very, very sick upon intake. And we are trying to work through that. I can't share any more details at this time. I know some of the cats did not make it based on how ill they were. And so we are stepping up to help. We've reached out to other sanctuaries. Again, most don't have any space. And so TWS is looking at how we're going to accommodate those because they're in desperate need. I have a call on a large scale group of large cats from out of the country that are in a dire situation and starving. And so I'm consulting on what can be done, whether food can be shipped in, is there enough storage space, can these animals start being placed and exported to other sanctuaries? Is the owner willing to give up custody for us to save those animals? That's another big case going on. And so it just never ends. And the Bengals, I've been getting about 2 or 3 emails on more Bengals at this time. I've just had to ask the owners to please be committed to your Bengal. And here's some tips that you can do if they're territory urinating. Here's some ways you can build for them. Right now, you know, Cedar Hill has been taking in some Bengals for us, but that's not the solution to ship every Bengal call to Cedar Hill. We also know that the Bengal rescue groups are even posting that they are past capacity, even for fosters or anything else. So it is a small cat crisis, whether people want to admit to it or not. And so really the best thing we can do is educate, share the word to really adopt appropriate pets. You want a companion for life, and so does that animal. So when people take the risk of adopting wild animals and hybrid animals, they don't necessarily know what they're going to get into, the commitment, the destruction of their household property, what their homeowner's insurance might drop them, how they find a vet, things like that. And really it's devastating, I'm sure, for the person that has to surrender an animal, and very much so for the animal that's surrendered. And yes, in the long run, they will have a wonderful, exceptional life here at the sanctuary. But at some point, we're going to have to say no too. We're going to have to say no. Somebody's asked, have we contacted Four Paws? Yes. Know that we have used every resource when we're doing international as well as in national here. So there's, and all sanctuaries are. We are really interconnected. As I've mentioned several sanctuaries in this live post, and I thank them so much for everybody that steps up and helps. So thank you, but there's no reason to tag each other or tag them and say, oh, Wildcat Sanctuary is looking for placement for small cats. We have all been in communication. We are a network of facilities and sanctuaries that are trying to make sure all these animals have homes, but there is only so much capacity. There's only so much capacity. And so we will all stretch to do what we can when an animal's in need, but none of us want to get over the head where these animals aren't getting that individualized, amazing care. Some of the fun things that kind of talks about that individualized, amazing care is, I think they'll be posting if they haven't, Indy, the tiger, they did a huge chain and hung her meat from the big telephone poles. And man, even with her little chubby sanctuary belly, she went right up there and had the best time. And so I'll see if Baby Jax, he seems to be sleeping right now, but we can see if, oops, there's a plug-in. I might have to take the phone. But I'll go ahead and turn this around real quick. And then I know so many people are stepping up to sponsor Jax and Simba, and thank you so much. Hi, CP-Head. You can hear the radio in the back. So Jax and I have been listening to classical music in here, and we'll turn it on again after the live post. But you can see he's not stressed about being in here, and he's getting his exercise walking around the hospital every couple hours, but he has not had a seizure again since this morning. Are you just going to ignore me, little Jax? Are you looking the opposite way? So I can tell, definitely in the hospital, he relies a lot on his hearing, and things can bounce off the walls in here. Hi, big boy. Are you a good boy? Hi, handsome. Do you know how loved you are? And as much as everybody loves this little boy, Simba has really got in our heart too. Simba is just a stunner, and I just can't wait to see him outside and see how he does in quarantine, but even bigger, how he does in a natural habitat. So we couldn't be happier to welcome these two boys, and you'll see a lot more photos of Simba, the other bobcat that came to the sanctuary, once he gets in his outdoor space. We definitely want to respect him when he's getting used to his space, because it's a little harder on adults to acclimate to a new space than it is this little guy. What are you doing? What are you doing? Nice. Hi. We love you. So thank you guys for being along with everything we do, and thank you for understanding that there was some confusion when we were talking about the Bobcat that would be coming to TWS and the Bobcat Simba that actually came. But now that both are here, we couldn't be happier that we get to provide them a forever wild at heart home. And don't worry, we're still committed to Rufus, just like the zoo that is temporary housing Rufus, and we will find Rufus his perfect place too. It just might take a little longer. All right, Jax, you get to go back outside and play tomorrow, but you'll be happy you're in here when the thunderstorms come by. So thanks, everyone.